For my research, I used Wikipedia to research music video directors such as Spike Jonze, Dave Meyers and Jonas Akerlund, and this allowed me to see what work they had done, and then I could use their work to influence my work, and then to see sort of what conventions and things that they use in their music video. This was good because then I could get invested in the works that they had done. However, it wasn't really accurate or effective because it might be cross-referenced, and the information could be altered by anyone, so it might not be accurate. And then I also use Wikipedia to research my chosen artist and chosen genre of music to get a better understanding of different music videos that were within the pop genre or dance pop genre, so then I can research them to research the conventions of that specific genre of music. I then also used YouTube videos to watch, to look at music videos, and I looked at music videos by Logic, so 1-800 by Logic and Symphony by Clean Bandit and Zara Larsson, because they had a look that, like a visual style that I wanted to achieve, and it was more narrative based rather than, like a performance video. So, and that was something that I wanted to do, so that's why I chose to look at those. And then I also looked at a documentary called Mirrorball. It introduced me to auteur theory, which emphasises the importance of creative input from the director. Also it introduced me to how editing to the beat of the music was incredibly important. And then I also looked at articles on the internet using Google, such as NME, which had articles that looked at the diversity of music videos, and Media Magazine, which also had an article on what makes a music video, so it went into things such as the conventions of music videos, such as an application video, an illustration video, or a disjuncture video. When I looked at Clean Bandit's video for Symphony, there was this effect that they had put on, so it was probably colour grading, which during happier, more upbeat scenes it had a higher saturation and tended to have more warmer tones, and then in the sadder scenes it tended to have more cool tones, and there was a little more of a lack of colour. And this was something that I put into my final work to emphasise the sadder and the happier scenes, so that really got, like a psychological, it had a psychological impact on the audience, so then they would be able to understand how they should feel during certain scenes. For primary research into my target audience genre and subculture, to talk to my target audience, I interviewed someone from my target demographic, and I used a Nikon D5100 to film this person, and just ask them questions into sort of like the genre I'd chosen, the artists that I'd chosen, and what they thought were the sort of the values that they put across, so sort of like maybe hedonistic values and stuff like that. And then I also looked on Google, and certain newspaper articles told me more about more dance pop genre and how it might be changing. Dance pop like music videos, they aren't just performance videos anymore, they may be more narrative, and they may be exploring more societal issues such as 1-800 by Logic, which addresses problems from their parents for being homosexual. Or if we ever got to a milestone and we wanted to plan, we often had our blogs to plan and we did blog posts on certain things that happened so that we could log down everything that we had done. So we used WordPress for this, and that was a good way to keep track of everything that we had done. And then for time management, we would often use sort of like social media, so maybe also just text messaging each other to sort out what days we would need, and we'd plan certain days, and often we would look at, you know, BBC Weather app to make sure that the weather was fine when we were filming, so that we didn't waste our time by going and then ending, and then by the time we got there it had ended up raining or something like that. So to find suitable locations, we often used Google Earth to look at locations to see whether they would be suitable to film. And then we would often take pictures using our camera phones with different lighting to see what it would look like with different lighting and to see if it was suitable to film. And then we often also used BBC Weather to see whether the weather would be okay to film on a certain day. I used Microsoft Word to put loads of images together to create a mood board, and I got these images from maybe Google Images and Tumblr to create an aesthetic that I could visualise in my mind, so quite a lot of warm tone pictures and cool tone pictures and quite a lot of colour. This is something that I wanted to get across in my music video, because this is often what is featured in Clean Bandit's music videos, and this is the artist I had chosen. And then I also used Microsoft Word to create a storyboard, which I then drew in. And then we created a video which we took a picture of the storyboard using a camera, and then we edited the video in Final Cut Pro so that we can zoom in on each shot, and then we do a voiceover so that we can explain what we expected to do in each shot, just to get across what we were aiming to do for each shot, really. Actually constructing our video, we used Final Cut Pro X for sequencing scenes together, and we used this at AS, so we knew how to sequence all of the scenes together, as we had used that at AS, just using like the blade tool to cut down scenes, and then sort of just dragging them in to create a big sequence of scenes. However, we advanced from AS by kind of moving away from Final Cut Pro and into using Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects. And we used Adobe Premiere Pro to color grade and correct, so then we could create our own personal LUTs. And we needed to look at a YouTube tutorial on how to do this because we were still unaware of how to do it, but creating custom LUTs made it easier for us to just apply that to each scene. So that we wouldn't have to go through and colour grade everything. We already had a custom LUT to apply to each scene. So if we wanted it to be, you know, more saturated and, you know, more warmer tones, then it would be easier just to apply to make a custom LUT that was like that with warmer tones, and we could just apply it to a scene. And then we did that throughout the entire thing, which made it a whole lot easier. For our Digipack and advert, we used Photoshop, and we took pictures with a green screen so that when we came to edit our Digipack and advert, we could easily remove the background and replace it with a black and white background. So then it meant that there were going to be no problems with lighting inconsistencies, and it made it just 10 times easier to apply the black and white background. And we were also able to edit the lips initially, because we wanted the lips to be just red, and we just used the magic wand tool to remove that, because it was originally in black and white, because that's the thing that we wanted across the entire album advert. And then we magically used the magic wand tool to get rid of the lips and then to make them red. However, this is what we did initially, but we then changed it back because it did look a little bit odd. It didn't really go with the rest of the visual style, really. So for using different technologies to actually create our music video, we often used not just one lens this time. We used a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens. So for close-up shots we would use a telephoto lens because it's often focused on the foreground, so it often focused on the person that we wanted it to focus on. And then we often used a wide angle lens for shots such as the dolly zoom that we used. So it would keep the person in the foreground the same size, and it would focus on them, but the background would get wider, and this created sort of like an illusion that you know, the person was becoming disorientated and shocked, and this is what we really wanted to emphasise, so this worked out well for us in the end. And then we often used the manual focus on the camera as well this time, so that it would, so we could focus on things that we wanted to focus on, and then we could make certain things out of focus that we didn't want to be in focus as well. For sourcing and storage for our final clips, we often we had a folder for our media work, and then we split that folder into our music video footage, our advert pictures, and then our album pictures as well. And then this year, if we didn't have if we had footage that we didn't think would work, we would just delete it initially because there was no way that we were going to be able to apply it. But then shots that we weren't sure, we sort of kept so that we could talk about it later, and then if we changed our minds, we were then able to use that later. We're a lot more organised this year with putting the footage in the right places, so then we didn't get confused. And then we also put the footage on a different computer away from school, sort of like at home, to make sure that if we did end up losing it, then it would still be backed up somewhere else. So for something that we used in the editing process, we filmed a certain scene in our music video where he appears to be texting at school, and then it transitions to him texting at home. And how we did this, we used a green screen, and we filmed just a shot of the desk, and then we also filmed a shot of a bed cover, and then we put that footage underneath in Final Cut Pro by removing the background using the keyer effect, and then we were able then to put the background in, so then we could create a smooth transition to show a lapse of time and then a change in locations. And then we also used the Ken Burns effect at the end of the video to emphasise the fact that they were now reunited and they were together. And this was an effect that we also used in Final Cut Pro with the Ken Burns effect. And then we also did use colour grading in Premiere Pro by the use of, again, custom LUTs that we applied to show have a higher saturation in the happier scenes and then a lower, more cool tone saturation in the sadder scenes. Technologies that I used to analyse audience feedback, I used a piece of technology, a website that was available to me was SurveyMonkey, that I was able to create my own questionnaire with a variety of questions asking what they thought the narrative was about, to make sure the narrative was clear, what the whether they thought that the colour grading looked nice, whether there were any changes that needed to be made, and then I was able to create a document with all of the feedback on it that would help me to improve my drafts that I made after that. Sort of got a group of people who were in my target demographic and sat them down to watch a draft of my music video, and I recorded this again with a camera that I then edited in Final Cut Pro and put all of their feedback together and all the positive and negative comments, and then sort of the general feedback. There were quite a lot of similar comments about what needed to be changed, so I made pie charts of the feedback that I got in Excel, which helped me to kind of put all of the information into one place, and it made it a lot easier to view the information.